G'day guys and welcome to the Centre Bounds for this, the first video reacting to the 2025 rules for Supercoach. Stay tuned. Jez, we're here, Big J. We're here, Big J. It's finally here. We're hearing news about Supercoach 2025.
I mean, I've said it offline, right? But once Big J comes in and messages Al Patton on Twitter, "Hey Al, where's my super coach? When's it coming out?" All this information starts coming, Joe. And I have to tell you, we're going to talk about all the rules. We're going to talk about everything we know. But how good was it having best 18 during the bye rounds? Because mate, we're going to have best 22 every single week. We got second chances all over the place.
Mate, every week is a bye week. You know, the AFL has been screwing with the fixture week in, week out, having all of these bye rounds. Supercoach is like, you know what? Let's just have a bye round sort of thing every single week. And that's what we're going to have, which I think a lot of people will be appreciative, especially the newcomers. Also, some of the experienced players who like to take a risk, who like to take a gamble and starting some injury-prone players, the new rules goes a long, long way to selecting boys like Big Sean Darcy. I can't wait, Big J.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, one of the big problems that we've had throughout the season, even, rounds, I'm talking rounds 18 to 23, 24 now, is that they've always had one or two injuries in a position and maybe you haven't had coverage. Now that we'll talk about the flex position, now we have 31 positions in our team and 23 on field. You'll be able to have a little bit of coverage for that backline player that may be injured or that midfield guy that's got a week suspension versus a lot of other people that might not, have had that in previous years.
Oh, absolutely. I know we remember Tom Green's injury early in the piece where we absolutely got killed and so many people traded Tom Green in that week.
Yep.
I recall, so many people having Max Gawn as their captain against the Brisbane Lions, and then he gets injured on a 0 in the first quarter as well. So a lot of these unfortunate circumstances can come into play completely out of your control. The people who are stuck without LDU because he was a very last second out, right, in the pre-match warm-up. So a lot of times you just can't possibly be expected to react. It's entirely out of your control. And so by adding the flex player, having an extra player on the field, therefore you've got 23 players to start with on the field each round, you're going to have 22 of those 23 scores count. Your lowest score will not count every single week on this basis.
Yeah, definitely. I remember a lot of us got shafted in previous years. Maybe you had a dud rookie at F6. He scored 15, didn't really do much. He plays in a crappy team, whatever it is. Now this player doesn't even count in your team anymore. As I said at the start of the video, it's basically bye rounds every single week. Best 22. During the bye rounds, it's best 18 still. So that's even better for us. We've got more second chances. So, makes things work out really well.
And we were talking about this, obviously, before recording. What does this mean for our strategies? For me, I just think that this is giving us every incentive to really go guns and rookies, because the issue with the guns and rookies is the slow start at the beginning where you're carrying extra rookies on the field that maybe might not outscore a team of mid-prices. But when you've got your worst performing rookie not having their score count now, but you're still getting the benefit of the cash gen that comes with that player, I just feel that going all in on a guns and rookies approach could be really appropriate. Obviously, this is the first year that we're seeing this type of player, but just on the outset, it seems prima facie that running a guns and rookies team like we were already planning on doing this year just seems to be an appropriate way to go.
Yeah, and I think as well, like mid-prices, mid-price madness has been a bit of a thing the last couple of years. Didn't really work out for us that had picked it in 2024. the rookies now, Joe, are just so good. You look at the top 10, top 20 players, they'll be outscoring most of the mid-prices anyway. So why would you not go the cheaper option and just lock in more, more and more 100-plus scores every week? And heck, if we look at the flex questions answered part, our players are going to be cheaper next year. So, 100 scoring every week players might be a little bit cheaper, which is great for us.
Absolutely. It's so good. Like, even this last line here, like, keep an eye out for the 99K rookies.
Yep,
Because
no more 102Ks anymore.
Exactly. 102K was basement price, but now we're going even lower because the salary cap remains at 10 million, but you have to afford an extra player on the field. So what they're doing is, rather than giving us a bit more in the bank to start building your team with, they're just reducing the cost of every single player that you can possibly acquire the services of. And the discount will be larger for those at the top and a bit lower for those at the bottom. The adjustments will occur across all price categories and will be relatively smaller for players at the cheaper end of the scale. So still, you could end up affording some more rookies at a lower price, whereby therefore you can also afford to get more gun premiums will also be cheaper.
Yeah, 100%, right? I mean, if you had every player now 50K cheaper, you'd end up with almost 50K rookies, which kind of doesn't work. So I love it. I think it just allows us as well to maybe potentially play a little bit riskier. I think a lot of super coaches will have, 50K-ish in the bank anyway to start their season. So it doesn't affect as much as what, people are thinking, having this 31-man squad instead of 30-man squad. So yeah, you might be able to do some more riskier things. And I think guns and rookies just becomes better because you'll be able to have more guns. I mean, if it is 20K across 13 players, you're already having a better team with an extra rookie at 117K than what you would have beforehand. So yeah, it works out quite well.
And the benefit as well is that by having the extra player on the field, you're getting that 23rd score, which could offset your lowest score, but you also are getting the benefit of extra cash gen from that player. So that means that it is possible that we could be finishing our teams even faster than we ever have before. And, my love for Sean Darcy, as I've sort of mentioned in a couple of streams now and prefaced it here, I just think that it works so well that he is going to be discounted from his lack of games. He's going to be further discounted because of the extra player. He's got a wonderful run to start off with where he can score really well. He'll be great value at that price point. Chuck him in as the flex player, have him score really well, knock off your lowest rookie score on the field, get some cash generation from him. And in the event that he does get injured, he would have made you so much money in the process, unless, of course, he was injured really early, that you do have other places that you can turn to as a trade option, potentially even Meek coming off of his bye. So there's a lot of plays that could possibly be made, and I'm really looking forward into that sort of line there.
Yeah, if not an extra ruckman, I know that we've been talking off air about potentially that being the best because generally number one rucks are scoring you 110 plus every week. You could play 9 midfielders, for example. Maybe you've got a gun team and you want to put this extra one in and someone's on a tear. And, we've had previous years where like a Zach Merritt, for example, or a Sinclair in the mids has had a great run home and scoring monster scores. Now you can fit him into your team. Same things with defenders, same things with forwards as well. So, yeah, you can really do some tricky things. And I think overall, at least to start the season, but throughout the season, we're going to get a lot more consistent scores because of the extra player. But I reckon as well, we might start to see a lot more higher scores because 2024 was definitely a drop. I remember 2023, there was like 2900s, Joe, in one of the weeks because the guns just went bang. I think the highest score I saw during 2024 was maybe a 2700. So having that player, having that highly owned player that now scores a 15 and has got injured or something like that, having him being cycled out because he's not in your best 22 is fantastic.
Exactly. And this flex player is like any other player on the field in that they can be nominated as a captain or
Yep.
a vice captain. And so the only difference, though, with this player is that there is no emergency cover for a flex. It is a standalone position. And if the flex doesn't play or scores a 0, unfortunately, that 0 will count as your 23rd score. And therefore, your 22nd score, you might get that crappy 20 rookie score. That, unfortunately, gets counted as part of your best 22.
Yeah, so I guess the strategy there is make sure that you put someone at your 23rd who you think are going to play every week, right? You're not going to try and have it as like a cash gen rookie because, yes, it might be great for you, but, you don't want to have missing out and basically being like it was 24 and everyone else having an advantage.
Exactly. Now, the 22, as you can see here, each round you'll score from your best 22 players in any position on field, including your flex player. You can still have non-starting players in your lineup.
Yep.
It doesn't screw up with your ability to do your classic VC loophole, the captaincy loophole, because as it says here in the last line, your vice captain receives double points if your captain does not play for any reason. So if your captain is a non-playing player, like if it's in a bye, for example, and you know that player is not playing, you can have the rookie, you can have the captaincy be on him and get the double points on the VC. That's not a problem. The issue, of course, is the same as normal. If your captain scores a 0 or your captain is double score is not in your best 22, you do not get a double score from your vice captain. You've just eaten a lot of doo-doo at that point, I think, unfortunately.
And I know you referenced off air, Joe, that 1 week last year, I think it was, where Max Scorn scored like a 20 and then got subbed off and everyone scored a 40. Well, now if that doesn't count, you don't get the vice captaincy score, you just get stuck. So hopefully you guys, I mean, it's only December, but just have a bit of a think about, hey, locking in the best 22 players, making sure your captains and vice captains are a little bit more consistent because you don't want to be the guy that just doesn't have a captaincy score at all.
Oh, that would be absolutely destructive, I think, this coming year more than ever, because you're right, Big J. We're going to see a lot more higher scores on average because every single week we're going to have a dud score not be counted. So that means naturally every single week we're going to have a better score. And if that particular week you don't give a captaincy score, I just fear that it would be so problematic in a meta where everyone's scoring well. Your lack of score that week will really hurt you and put you behind the 8 ball.
Mm-hmm. And I've got a bit of a question for yourself, Joe. Now that we've got, most people kind of finish their teams with 23 primos anyway, you would hope so, right? Now that we're going into 24, potentially 25 primo territory with the flex, does that make trades worth more heading into 2025 or worth less or worth the same?
It's a very good question. The fact that you have to, now we don't necessarily know how many trades we're going to have this year. That news hasn't come out.
You'd assume it stays at 40. Let's pretend it's going to stay. Yeah,
correct. We're going to assume that it stays at 40. Now, if you're picking someone that you're considering to be a premium right off the bat on your team, you've got one extra premium already on your starting side than you otherwise would have, I think. So what you're doing is that means you have now less players that you have to get premiums for, which means that I think the value of the trades are a bit less and means that you can be more aggressive with your trades. You don't have to sit and wait for a player to make 150K. You can pull the trigger if they make 100K, I think, and that means that you can still make successful trades to get your team upgraded ASAP without necessarily eking out every single dollar that you need to from each one of your players.
Yeah, see, I'd almost say it's the other way because you're trying to get 24, 25 premiums. The cash gen, just because the first year rookies this year are going to be fantastic, might help to offset it a little bit, but you're wanting to fill more positions on field. I think a lot of people last year were happy with the 23rd, whereas Now, if you don't have a 23rd, you're kind of screwed. So now people want 24, 25 premiums. You want that midfield extra guy. You want that extra forward guy just in case of emergencies, right? You always want to have 23 primos playing, and towards the end of the season, maybe I'm not going to say Sheasel, but maybe a Sheasel or a Dacos or, someone else gets injured. Well, you need coverage, Joe.
Of course. Well, the thing is, depending on your luck in a particular season, as long as if most of your players are remaining healthy and you're just dedicating all of your trades to purely upgrading your team as opposed to making corrections all the time, trading out McKercher, trading in McKercher, trading back out McKercher to trade McKercher back in. For example,
I understand.
You end up chasing your tail a little bit when it comes to the trade. So obviously there is a lot of luck, and so I would say that the players, though, are all going to be cheaper. They're all going to be discounted, which means that you don't necessarily need as much money to be able to afford these players, whilst also having an extra player on the field right from the get-go who will be also generating you more cash. So I'm just thinking that from the starting point, you've got one extra player on the field now who is giving you points and cash generation, whilst also having every single player starting a little bit cheaper. So in my opinion, all of these things marry up with you potentially being able then to be more aggressive with your trades because you've got extra cash generation than other years. You've got one extra player on the field, more equity that you can tap into to make aggressive trades during the course of the season with the players starting at a lower price. So that's why I have all of these things together.
I guess as well, on the flip side, your starting rookies might not be as expensive either. So it might take that extra week worth of cash gen to be able to get to a premium level price and things like that. One of the things they haven't said, guys, is what's going to happen with the magic number, if it's going to stay the same or if it's purely just, hey, the starting players are going to be cheaper, everything else is the same. How about it, really? And that's something to really come into it, I think, a little bit heading into December, January time when the game officially opens. We'll kind of see what happens with scoring. But yeah, it's going to make it a little bit easier for a lot of people to sideways players as well, because instead of, this guy scoring 100 and now jumping up to a huger price, might be a little bit cheaper for us. Or it could be the wrong way around and say, hey, if a 99K player scores 100, well, he might jump up even higher, Joe, because he's a lot cheaper.
Yes, correct. So it's going to be interesting to see how things will play out. Obviously, you need, like I said before, you need luck, but setting up your team, I think, to really take advantage of the fact that you've now got an extra player, which means that you can play it one of two ways. And I think most people, I think, will find that the best way or the most reasonable way would be to get an extra premium ruck that is lower price. Before, a lot of people might have had a conundrum of, hey, do I go a combination of DeConning, Cherry, Marshall, or Meek, maybe even Sean Darcy. But by having this extra third one now, you could possibly go really cheap. You can possibly get all three of DeConning, Meek, and Shrek, potentially, if you really wanted to go value in the ruck and have a lot of people that are underpriced in that position with capacity to score over 100 each one of them, then you're going to get a lot of money really quickly. Will Tripp and Cherry be able to maintain that breakout scoring that he saw last year, back to back 2 years in a row? Or will it be likely that because his break even is going to start off at a higher price point, he can drop a little bit whilst these other rucks that you've got that are really cheap will meet him up and you can get him for a cheaper price? So there's a lot of strategy that will be implemented, and it's really going to be really keen to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I think, overall, we can talk about this forever. We don't really know the prices and whatnot, but the beautiful thing with Supercoach, at least over the last few years, has been every year they've put something different in. I remember a couple of years ago, the boost had changed. Now we've got round 0 and kind of figuring out what's happening with that, extra trades and whatnot as well. So it keeps the game fresh. I know a lot of people are going to complain and say, oh, it's not the game I used to know 20 years ago, but come with the times, guys. And the beautiful thing as well, Joe, is that we've been playing Supercoach and fantasy football and whatnot for a long time, but we're learning almost at the same time as everyone else because everything's new again. So that's kind of where the excitement and whatnot and the strategy and gives us some things to make videos on too.
Exactly. I mean, that's sort of the excitement that we got when the boosts first came into the piece. No one really knew how it was supposed to play out. And so it was a year of experimentation. Maybe players that didn't do so well in the first year of the boosts learned their lesson, applied a different sort of strategy in the following year, and they reaped the rewards. So obviously, we're all in this together. None of us have experienced a flex position in Supercoach footy before, but we're all in it together, and it will be really interesting to see how the winner, hopefully it's one of our wonderful viewers, navigates this new strategy, and it will be one for the ages.
Oh, 100%, Joe. Guys, mate, if you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, like it says down the bottom. Let us know down in the comments. Big J and Joe, I love the new background. Love kind of a little bit of the rebranding that we're doing, and keen for a new year. It's only December 11th, just as this video gets made and then put out. But I'll tell you what, 5 or 6 days, Al Patton, if you watch the stream, keep the tight-lipped about what was happening. But I reckon 5 or 6 days Supercoach is open. So can't wait for it. It's going to be mad fun.
Correct. Well, he said between today and the 25th. It will be before Christmas, but after, but not tonight. So hey, you've got it narrowed down by 14 days, by 2 weeks. So hey, some point in time between these 2 weeks, Supercoach will be open, and we'll be here for it. Thank you guys so much for watching. We look forward to seeing your continued viewership as we move on to 2025.
100%. Remember, here at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work, so you guys don't have to. Bye for now.